Am I the asshole for calling my fiance delusional for wanting me to let his mom pick my makeup/look for the wedding? My fiance and I are getting married. He comes from a conservative family, and his mom has been up in the wedding planning, posing as supervisor to oversee and to, quote, catch and eliminate anything that could be seen as offensive.
Oh.
After the wedding dress fiasco, I was told to get a dress that wasn't showing too much skin. Next came the makeup issue. I showed my fiance some looks I wanted to choose from, and he gasped and said his mom would have a stroke if she saw these. I, in frustration, asked, what should I do? And next thing I knew, but did not expect, was for her to send me looks of models with almost no makeup or very light makeup. No eyeshadow, no glowy lipstick, just ... plain look. I refused to choose from any of her suggestions, and we had an argument. My fiance came home and argued about how I'm planning on humiliating him and his family at the wedding by wanting to look like a, quote, clown and make a joke out of both of us. I snapped and called him delusional to think I'll let his mom get a say in what makeup I should wear since it's my face. He said there's no such thing as mine and yours in marriage, and that I'm clearly too immature for it. He has been avoiding me while saying, quote, you know why I'm avoiding you. And his mom sent a text about how she has my best interests at heart.
Oh.
Am I the asshole?
Are you kidding me?
Am I the asshole for leaving the engagement dinner due to my fiance's obsession with the dog? I, 28 male, proposed recently to my girlfriend, 27 female. We are planning the wedding to happen next year. My fiance has a 5-year-old golden retriever mix. I had a few bad experiences with dogs as a kid. Her dog is very friendly and he gets all the attention from my fiance. She denied some jobs that won't let her work from home as she is worried about the dog. I work from home 3 days a week and she only texts asking how the dog is. I planned this very nice trip last weekend to celebrate our engagement. I booked a nice hotel and made reservations at a nice restaurant. One of our close friends stayed with the dog. My fiance asked her to text with an update every 2 hours, and I did my best to make it a wonderful weekend. We had reservations for 7 p.m. at the restaurant. My fiance didn't get ready until 6:40, as she hadn't heard from the dog sitter. When we arrived at the restaurant, we had to wait 30 minutes for a table to open. When we sat down, my fiance spent the entire dinner on her phone trying to get a hold of the friend. I paid for the meal and got up from the table, telling her that I was going to wait in the car. She came out about 20 minutes later, screaming at me for leaving her at the table alone. I yelled back that she ruined our engagement trip for putting the dog over us. We sat in silence all the way home, and she's thinking about going to stay with her parents. I'm now being called an asshole for leaving from the restaurant. Am I the asshole?
Maybe.
Am I the asshole for going home after my in-laws excluded me from dinner at a restaurant? I, female 26, went on a family trip with my in-laws 2 weeks ago. Mother-in-law always thought that I am a bit ignorant and backwards, and that's just because I come from a lower-class family compared to hers, and I have no etiquette. After we arrived at the hotel, they arranged to visit a fancy restaurant for dinner. My husband avoided telling me, and I learned it last minute after he had already gotten dressed. I asked where he was going, and he said he and his family were going out to eat, but I wasn't invited because his mom assumed that since I wouldn't be familiar with the food and how to eat it there at the restaurant, then it's better for me to stay in and eat at the hotel. I didn't argue, I just let him go. Then I packed and took the first flight home. He freaked out and called many times. And when he found out that I went home, he blew up and called me ridiculous and irrational to do this. Even said I acted in an ungrateful manner and embarrassed him in front of his family after he literally begged to have me go on the trip. We argued and he started giving me the silent treatment after he came home. Moreover, his family are indirectly criticizing me on Facebook about what I did. Did I overreact? Edit, he didn't even mention what type of food they ordered. Edit number 2, the family didn't plan on having me come along, but my husband, like he said, begged them to invite me. This isn't just with me. My brother-in-law's girlfriend wasn't invited as well. Edit 3, they paid for my expenses, so I didn't want to act like I'm being needy / or something. I think this is justified.
Yeah, I do too.
Am I the asshole for trying to help my girlfriend without hurting her feelings? I, 32 male, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, 24 female, for almost 3 years now. When we first got together, she was pretty overweight and struggling with her self-esteem, depression, and anxiety. Over time, she started to work on herself, both physically and mentally. I've been incredibly proud of her progress and how far she's come. Lately, though, I noticed that she's been putting on some weight gain, and it's been affecting her mental health. She's mentioned feeling down about her body image, and her struggles with anxiety and depression have resurfaced. I genuinely care for her, and I don't want to see her suffer like this. I thought about talking it out, but knew it would just evolve into asking if I'm still attracted to her. And truthfully, I have lost some attraction over the last month or so, though she does still look amazing for the most part. I thought it would be better to take some more subtle approaches. So I've started adding small amounts of sawdust to her food. The idea being it would help her feel fuller faster and encourage her to eat less without her knowing.
Sawdust.
Wood.
Surely that's a jailable.
Yeah, bro.
I was trying to prevent her from falling back into her previous state of depression and anxiety. Unfortunately, my brother, 30 male, caught me in the act, and he was shocked and angry. He told me I was being manipulative and abusive.
Facts.
Which, okay, a little shady, maybe, but abusive is a serious stretch. Now my brother is giving me an ultimatum. He wants me to tell my girlfriend what I've been doing by the end of the week, or he'll tell her himself. He believes she deserves to know the truth. I think what I've been doing is enough to help her without causing her unnecessary pain by revealing what I've done. She's already lost a few pounds. I told him I would stop, and I believe that should be sufficient. I don't see the point of telling her and potentially destroying the progress she's made. My brother thinks I'm completely in the wrong and that my girlfriend deserves the truth, but I genuinely believe I was doing what I thought was best for her, and I don't see it as malicious. Am I really the jerk for trying to help my girlfriend in this way, or is my brother overreacting? Should I tell my girlfriend what I've been doing, or keep it to myself to spare her feelings? I need honest opinions here. Please keep in mind that telling her up front that she's put on weight could seriously set her back.
Well, that's the least of his
Crazy.
problems.
That is the least
He's a
of his-
crazy person.
Sawdust.
Sawdust.
What food is he putting it in that she's not noticed she's eating sawdust?
It must be like stews and soups and them things that she's just mixing it in.
Yeah.
The viscosity is thick. She can't tell.
I also couldn't walk in on you mixing sawdust in your girlfriend's food. I couldn't. I physically couldn't walk
You'd
in
have
and
to
see
sit
that.
me down and we'd have to talk.
Yeah, I'll shake you, bro. What are you thinking?
I'd be like, please, Jade, please, I need to do something.
Oh, yeah. She's making great progress. I'll send you to prison, bro. That's crazy stuff.
My dad lost his phone a while back, and it was a really big deal because he was used to losing his phone for like a day or a few hours and then being like, it's in the car, found it. But this time it was really, really lost, and it wasn't an iPhone, so they didn't have, it was an Android. They didn't have Find My iPhone, and they were looking for it everywhere, and then they were like, well, obviously the phone is stolen, is what my parents thought. They sent out a mass text message to the children saying, don't reach out to that phone. Whoever picks it up will not be your father. He was monitoring all of his accounts really closely to make sure he wasn't getting further robbed, because clearly somebody stole his phone. He was looking for it for weeks and weeks, and they couldn't find it at all, and so finally he had to get a new phone. What happened to his old phone? We may never know, except we did find out because he was digging through the freezer and he found his phone. Apparently he had been pawing through the freezer and it fell out of his shirt pocket, and then it just lived in an icy tundra for over a month, and it did not survive. They did stick it in rice, but I just think it's really funny that he lost his phone pawing through the freezer for ice cream like a bear, and he found it the exact same way. And honestly, I think that's a really respectable way to lose a phone.
Am I wrong for telling my mom and dad that they have to get their noses pierced if they want to see my daughter again? My husband and I traveled down to Mexico to visit with my family. I am an American citizen, but my mom and dad are not. My mom and dad got my daughter earrings for her birthday, but my daughter's ears are not pierced, and she's only 1 year old. So I told them I would save them for her until she was old enough to get her ears pierced. Well, we left my daughter with my parents while we went to meet up with some friends, and you can see where this is going. When we went to pick up my daughter, my mom showed us that we did not have to wait because they took her to get her ears pierced. So I got my daughter and dragged my husband out of there before he lost it. Then we went back to our hotel. I am absolutely furious, and my husband said my parents are not allowed to spend time alone with my daughter ever again. I went farther. I said I would not be bringing her or any kids we might have down to see my parents. And we checked out 3 days earlier. Am I wrong for telling my mom and dad that they have to get their noses pierced if they ever want to see my daughter again? On my way home, my parents were calling me to see when we were coming over. I ignored all the calls and texts until we got back to Phoenix. We took a couple days to think things over and cool down. So I finally called them and asked them not to speak until I was done talking. I told them that my husband and I are upset for them getting our baby's ears pierced without our permission. So I let them know we went back home and probably wouldn't be visiting for a while. That's when they said that my sister and I both had pierced ears when we were babies and it did not harm us. I said that we were not going to change our minds. Then they started getting everyone, including my grandmother, to call me and say I was being ridiculous. Me and my husband decided that we would agree to resume visits but not alone time with them if they got their noses pierced. They said that we're being stupid and they are not going to, so I said no problem and hung up. Am I, 24 female, wrong for setting a limit on how many times my boyfriend, 29 male, can snooze his alarm? So my boyfriend Mark works a very early shift that requires him to be at work at 5 a.m. So he sets alarms for 4 a.m., but he has a really nasty habit of snoozing it repeatedly. Now, I don't get up for work until about 6:30 or 7:30 a.m. depending on when I start, so obviously my sleep is very disturbed by this. I want to mention that Mark is an incredible boyfriend in nearly all aspects. He's the man I want to marry, but he struggles with ADHD, which can make things difficult. Namely, getting out of bed is a challenge for him. And it might be worth noting, but I am awaiting official diagnosis, but I'm fairly certain I'm ADHD, autistic, or a mix of the two. So I also find getting up hard and value my sleep. And his alarms make that really difficult. And it's not just one alarm either. He has managed to set alarms so his phone, Apple Watch, and Apple Home iPod. Am I, 24 female, wrong for setting a limit on how many times my boyfriend, 29 male, can snooze his alarm? And it's multiple alarms. His phone, his Apple Watch, and Apple Home Pod all go off at the same time or within minutes of each other. Not even the usual 9 minutes that Apple allows when you hit snooze. Different alarms going off with different snoozes every few minutes. And out of spite, yesterday morning, I counted. Between 4 and 5 a.m., his alarms went off 12 times. It's gotten to the point where I get up at around 4:30 because I just don't want to listen to the alarm's noise. He's tried changing the tone of the alarm, switching it to music I like instead of the default, but none of it helps. As soon as I've woken up 5 times by the alarms, there's no going back to sleep. So I told Mark this morning unless he could agree to snooze his alarms only twice at a maximum, then he gets up, I will sleep on the couch for the foreseeable future.